Hi, it's Kirby. It's December 26th, 2024. It is a little bit before 8 o'clock my time. What I want to do is bring you a little commentary on the halftime show featuring Beyonce, who we know has been in the middle of this really incredible firestorm in the wake of the Sean Combs, let's say, arrest. And by the way, yesterday I walked by the hotel and I am going to be doing a podcast just on the owners of the hotel in connection with Martha Mitchell, who made allegations. Martha Mitchell was married to Richard Nixon's Attorney General, John Mitchell, who, if you don't know and you haven't read my book, Jeffrey Epstein, Predator Spy, then perhaps you will not understand or remember or realize that Epi, our dear departed friend, maybe, depending on who you ask and who believes what, always claimed that it was John who introduced him to Hoffenberg. Hoffenberg, we know, had a different theory. However, there are many, again, overlapping connections. I don't look at these flare-ups as being anything different. Before I get started, I want to thank everyone who takes the time to give this a like and to comment because it certainly helps the algorithm. And other people, believe it or not, they're beginning to see my podcast where in the past they really could not see it. I don't expect that it's going to get corrected properly uh anytime soon, clearly. I mean, if what you're saying is a little annoying to people who are not necessarily on our side, let's say, then they're going to do everything they can to suppress our voices. That said, I want to give a very big thanks to Hindsight DV3XR, who gave me a super chat by clicking on the little three dots at the bottom of the screen, because now I'm allowed to get super thanks. I don't do live streams where people generally do something else and give some monetary compensation to their person of choice when the podcast is going. I don't have that, but I was approved for super thanks and I didn't even know it existed. And also to Sarah R., who for the second time went on my website and decided to give me a one-time contribution through there, where I, the content producer in this case, get to keep about 90% versus the just shy of 50% I get on this platform, because YT keeps approximately, well, they keep exactly 40. The paying institution keeps about 10, and the content provider keeps less than 50. So I want to thank not just these two people that I mentioned. And by the way, Sarah, thank you. 2 times you went to my website. Much appreciated. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. But I want to thank everyone who has shown your love. It's really, sometimes I just have to stop and kind of take it all in. So we know that the deal with Beyonce is something that came about because of the Netflix situation, where Netflix, and by the way, I unsubscribed from Netflix because I was tired of being gaslit, lied to, given an alternative historical lesson on major events, like literally major events. So I just want to first start with the Netflix info because a lot of money was spent. Here it goes. So the game was live streamed for the first time on Netflix, and it was part of the streaming giant's recently signed 3-year licensing deal with the NFL for their Christmas Day games. Now, the overall deal was worth $150 million. Now, how much did Beyonce get paid for showing up on a white horse with a white cowboy hat in a white outfit? Later on, a very skimpy white outfit with everyone wearing white. Shades of Diddy's white parties, folks. And it gets worse. Okay, how much did she get paid? So it goes on to say that in a pre-recorded intro, she was sort of, well, let me just get to what she got paid first. So she got paid a reportedly $60 million project deal. And it's for three different things that she has to do for Netflix. And that specifically her halftime show that some people watched. I didn't watch it. I just caught clips of what was put up by other people earlier today on the 26th of December, because she did this on the 25th on Christmas Day. Well, she got $20,000, sorry, 20 million. The millions are such a high number that you would think, well, 20,000 would be okay to show up and do that, I guess, for you and me. But no, she got 20 million. And I'm curious to know what Blue Ivy got. She's a 12-year-old. She's been introduced to the public by her mother to do many things, and one would have to wonder, because I remember when the Jeff situation arose and our friend Virginia would tweet, as often as she could about Selena, the daughter of, yes, the Dubins, saying things that would have been very upsetting if they happened to your daughter or your little sister or your granddaughter, and being told, and she tweeted this at the time, that she was warned not to tweet any additional information about Selena because, she was like literally threatened. So we can only imagine, based on the information that we have gathered, not just with the Sean Combs case and not just with the new allegations against her husband, Jay-Z, because that lawsuit is still ongoing, by the way. I know that there was a lot of controversy because she was suddenly interviewed on a mainstream media platform where they were ready to decimate her. Well, we have seen this done before. We saw this with Ava Cordero when she went up against Jeff and Wexy, because she did sue both of them. All right. Now, we can only wonder what's happening with Blue Ivy. And it is quite disturbing to think that perhaps it's not all peaches and cream. Let's just put it that way. So I was looking at the commentary, and there's a lot of symbolism in what was happening. What she said, and give me a minute, because I do have some notes here. So here's the thing. What I noticed when I watched it was like the white horse, and I went to her Twitter page today, her X page, And she very prominently posted an image of herself on the white horse holding holding the American flag, wearing the white outfit. And I was instantly struck by all of the times that I saw Jeff and his sidekick, who is now in jail, supposedly for 20 years. But yeah, the jury's not out yet. I expect she's going to be released anytime soon for some odd thing that they'll come up with. What this reminded me of is that Jeff wore the American flag on his clothing all the time. We know that his sidekick, G, I'm going to call her for this platform, even wore a red, white, and blue American flag bikini. And so when I saw Beyonce waving the American flag, yeah, I get it. It's the NFL. And there's so much more about the NFL that you don't know. And it's really not for me to like tell you everything in one podcast. It would take me literally days and days and days. And I don't have that kind of time. It's the day after Christmas, guys. So, I mean, it was very reminiscent of the white parties. And then the American flag, what it told me is that, and we have to remember that Lawrence Larry King sang at the Republican convention. I believe it was 1980 or 1984 when Reagan was running for president. So we keep seeing these references to the American flag and to our highest level politicians, frankly. So, for me, I saw that and I saw that as a subtle, perhaps not so subtle for some of us, clue that what's going on has been sanctioned because it happens repeatedly. Again, to me, they're a continuation of the same thing. We can't talk about Larry without thinking about Jeff, without thinking about now Sean Combs, without thinking about Jay-Z and Beyonce. And by the way, there is a former football player who sat down, and if I can find a link to that podcast, which has been heavily suppressed, I will include it below. And he talks about the fact that he was at a party with Combs and Jay-Z, and he ended up sitting on a sofa. And he said there was a 13-year-old child at the party when the adults were there, but that the child was with her mother. But then when it came time to, like, for people to start moving out and others to come moving in, he said he noticed a bunch of little girls, little boys show up, not of age, show up to the party. And he, like, in his mind, he really couldn't figure out what these children essentially were doing. It just didn't sit. But he was sitting there. So he sat, and there was a child, and then Beyonce was sitting next to the child. And according to what he said, and he said this on a podcast, and again, I'm going to try to find that link so you can go watch it because it's really important. He said that our friend, whose name starts with the letter B, whom we are speaking about today, said to the child, "Oh, well, isn't this sexy?" Well, that reminded me very specifically of G and some of the commentary she would tell very young, impressionable girls when they were, let's say, going into the house by the pool, and there would be, people their age would be milling around the pool wearing almost nothing. Or after she fed the child to the lion, the E person, because he screened to see who he kept and who he did not keep. She would say, "Well, didn't you have fun?" So trying to give it a spin because as a child, and you see someone who you admire, the girl in the E case admired Galen, who sounded very posh, who wore very expensive clothing. And then this girl at the party where this former football player was at, of course, is going to admire Beyonce, who was turned despite the fact that her singing voice, frankly, it's not great. It's just not. If you have listened to music, as all of us have, from the time that we be like opened our eyes, we know that there are better voices. Okay, but she was selected. Now, I want to say that one person commented after I tweeted something that white in the church is without subterfuge and it's used for SATANIC activity and R word debauchery, like in Caesar's Rome behind the scenes. So he also added that Oprah's favorite John of God, another person who engages in that type of behavior and also wore white very often. Um, I saw someone else tweet that I mean, I saw comments like bring back the marching bands. I'd rather, or this other one, I'd rather see Dolly Parton or any other artist who keeps their clothes on. I did see someone else compare her on the white horse to, give me a second, because again, I have a lot of notes here. To behold a pale horse, which is a reference to a phrase from the book of Revelation in the Bible, specifically Revelation 6. I don't know how to define this, 6:8, I guess, where the rider of the pale horse is named Death, symbolizing judgment and mortality. Mortality. Gee, mortality. There is no such word as mortality, by the way. Okay, which, yeah, I went back to see if that was true, and it is true. Additionally, it is the title of the 1991 book by Milton William Cooper. And so I kind of when I kind of went into the white horse thing, it's defined as the white rider with a white horse who has a bow with a crown given to him to conquer and complete his conquest. Uh, Others believe it is the Antichrist who who poses as a charismatic leader and presents himself. So we're going to just substitute himself for herself as the savior of the world. And again, I'm changing the phrasing here. Her power and authority come from the dragon, who is Satan, and like Satan, she is a great deceiver. Well, that when I read that, I thought, well, gee, that kind of does sound a lot like our friend Beyonce. Um, there was a lot of Greek symbolism with the Olympics. It's kind of like, I have to say that I did not expect that she would have either Blue Ivy there, which she did, or that she would throw up the horn sign, which she did. So on Christmas, we got the horn sign by the star of the performance. And we know that the company that her husband created was in fact sort of like they always did this those symbols, those signals. And we know that there's just a lot of that. And only now, frankly, are other people becoming aware. So the question becomes, is Jay-Z going to be saved? But the way I look at it, it's like, if he's going to be saved, is it because they are still banking on Beyonce, who, by the way, is aging out? I saw a lot of comments about her aging out and the fact that she's wearing inappropriate clothing for somebody her age. She's aging out, unless they're going to try to put it on Blue Ivy, but Blue Ivy doesn't have the she doesn't have the personality. She seems to be very quiet unless she has another a metamorphosis like we have seen a lot of the Disney kids have, like Miley Cyrus, for example, where she was immediately turned into this vixen. And and she was still a kid, frankly. So is that going to happen to Blue Ivy? And I don't know how many of you know that Beyonce is related to Queen Elizabeth. Therefore, she is related to Prince Andrew, King Charles III. The way it goes is her mother, Tina Knowles Lawson, married Richard Lawson, who is connected to Denise Gordy, who is the daughter of George Weldon Gordy Sr., who is the sister of Elsa Octavia Christina Crayford, whose son is private, wife private, whose father is Gunnar Hunning Witchmark, whose sister is Kirsten Bernadotte, whose husband is Carl Johann Bernadotte, whose father is Gustav VI Adolf, King of Sweden, whose wife is Louise Mountbatten, Queen Consort of Sweden, whose sister is Princess Alice of Battenberg, whose son is Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, who was, as you know, married to Queen Elizabeth II. So, yeah, that's the genealogy. You can find the genealogy if you look online. That's where I found it. It takes time. Genealogies are difficult to put together, but there was a straight line here. So, it's just it's just amazing to me that there's so many symbols thrown in front of our face. Not just with the halftime show, right? But in a lot of her other performances. Now, I've seen her on horses before. And again, although this is Texas and she was born in Texas, let's not forget the Bushes also made Texas their home. But I don't know how many of you know that the Bushes began in Ohio. That's right, in Ohio. And who else is in Ohio? Wexy. And then they moved to Texas. So they're not native Texans. They began in Ohio. I am very curious to know what you guys thought of this Netflix special starring Beyonce, and if you think that Beyonce is too big to fail, because people are beginning to think that perhaps Jay-Z is too big to fail. I don't know. I mean, they put enough holes into the story of the then 13-year-old autistic girl whose father is a horrific man. But I want to say something. So the father of this 13-year-old girl, who said that she called her father after the grape incident, where she alleges that both Jay-Z and his very good friend, by the way, they do know each other. They are friends, despite what Jay-Z's attorney is saying. I mean, we all know this, right? Uh, that she alleges that she was raped by these two very powerful guys in the music industry. Her father was questioned about it, and he's like, I can't remember. Well, I want to tell you that during the E situation, I was heavily connected with a lot of the more vocal accusers. And I was very interested when I saw interviews with the fathers, and I saw that the fathers either said exactly what the daughter said, and it may not even have been the truth, and or did exactly the opposite. And so even during that time, I had to wonder, well, is this person getting paid off, even though they have a child? Look, my mother sold me into the trafficking world. So I have no high expectations of the the safety of a mother child relationship or of a father child relationship. My mother sold me into this. Thank God I managed to get out. But one has to just ask questions repeatedly so that when her father said, well, I don't have any recollection, it could just mean that that person got paid off. You know, there are very few good parents, especially after the three-letter agency decided to destroy the family unit. You know, I mean, there was a time, the post-war period, that we had a very tight-knit family unit. Well, that kind of fell apart, you know, on many levels, with some effort by your friendly three-letter agency. And I should say plural because there were a lot of them that were involved in the decay, including all entertainment. You know, during the 1960s, I believe, 1970s, we saw the emergence of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. We saw That Girl. We saw the fading away of shows like Father Knows Best, Donna Reed. You know, all of that got supplanted by shows of single mothers or single women who don't need a man. And I mean, it's just, there was just a concerted effort to bring us to where we are today, where all of our children, even if you're in a good family, you're going to go to school, you're going to be in a, unless you send your child to a private school, they're going to be in a school that is state sponsored, where they're going to learn the basics, if that, and will they even learn about the truth? I mean, I can't see a school, and I know I'm going off topic, but this is the time to just, when I'm in the mood to rant and vent, this is the time to do it. Hey, if you haven't liked this video, like it. Thank you. All right, so that we're sent to school where I'm sure the truth of um, the demise of Martin Luther King, the truth of the demise of John F. Kennedy is not taught. We're not taught. I mean, I know that we still have a very big problem, and my solution to that is homeschool your kid if you have that luxury. Do it, and then you can decide what to teach your child so that that child can be better prepared. But we do not have that, and so I can see that it's become easier and easier not just to put all this stuff in front of us, all of these symbols that are just Satanic in nature, in movies, in the Super Bowl. And of course we have Netflix, who is Mockingbird through and through, inking a deal. You know, hey, we're gonna do we're gonna do we're the people, and $150 million. So think about all the people who are not, quote, awake. Like, most of you are awake. Most of you, when I read your comments, I can see that you know the drill. Anyway, I am very curious to know what you have to say. And again, I want to thank everyone who has been contributing to my work by doing the super things, by joining my Substack in the last day or two. Several of you here have run over and become members there. And by the way, I've got 2 free articles that I uploaded, one on December 24th and one on December 25th, that I urge you to read. They're free. And it shows you a little more about how we have been deceived by Mockingbird Media. That said, have a great day. Talk soon. Bye.